Hello, hello, hello. This is Adelaide Brown, your heart coach, and I want to welcome you to another episode of The Heartline with Adelaide Brown. This show is a space for men and women from all over the world to come together and grow heart equity. What is heart equity? Personal, relational, and financial wealth that we cultivate and grow through authentic living. I am a life and business coach by trade, and I'm also a professional realtor, but I have a passion for seeing us live our lives to our fullest potential. And I've been the heart coach now for over 10 years, and the heart line is really a space for you and I to have a conversation. I feel like many of us are that strong go-getter, go-to person that everybody comes to when they need help. But where do you go when you need help? That's what the heart line is for. It's to help you, to support you, to encourage you. We'll have real conversation so that you can get real results in your personal, professional life, as well as in your finances. So today, I'm really excited about today's show because I know that this is an issue that many of us are dealing with. So the title for today's show is Burnout in Your Prime. Is this a blessing or a burden? Burnout in your prime. Is this a blessing or a burden? Let's be honest. You've been building your business, you've been climbing this career ladder, but now what? We need to talk about the emotional burnout that you've been experiencing and why, in order for you to get to that next level, you're going to need a lot more heart than hustle. Right? We understand you got to hustle. You got to get to the bag. You need to be disciplined. You need to be consistent. We hear these things all the time, but we've been doing these things and still don't feel like we're getting the results that we need, right? You know what it feels like to put the goal on the list, to work years and years and years to get to the goal, only to reach the goal and find out that you're still upset, that you still feel inadequate, that you're still wrestling with imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't know if you deserve to be there, if you're worthy of the position or title that you have. And I just want to let you know that you are. I know what it's like. I remember being a teen mom and barely making it through my senior year, right? And it was a culture shock for me because when I was growing up, I was that kid that was like the only black child in the SEAL class, and I was the only black child in the gifted and talented class. I always had high expectations for me and what I was supposed to do, where I was supposed to go, how I was supposed to perform in life. And it wasn't until I got to high school that I realized how much those pressures of what others' expectations were of me, like how that was really impacting my life, right? So I was still trying to be overcome believing that I was a failure because I was a teenage mom. When I got pregnant at 17, that was not in the plan for the little girl that was in sale or wherever you are, you might call it something else. Our school district calls it sale. But nevertheless, the gifted and talented program. But it got me thinking about how in those early years, I learned how so much of our identity is tied into our achievements. In those early years, I learned that in order for people to love me, to support me, to really care about me, I needed to perform. I needed to perform at a high level and I needed to consistently do it all the time. The thing about that is, you can't do that. That's not how life operates. And many of us are still in our adult lives, but we're still being operated from a childhood mindset and mentality of you still trying to be good enough for your mom. You still trying to be good enough for your dad. You're trying to prove that teacher wrong or that older family member, that cousin or sister or brother who told you you would never be enough. And now you find yourself in this position where you've climbed the ladder. You've started the business. You're at a point where you can scale or you could even sell. You have that success, but you're burnt out. You're tired. And of course you're tired because what you're starting to realize is it does not matter whatever you achieve is never enough. And today I want to let you know that what you have done is enough. I want you to know that we value the work and the efforts that you have put into your life to getting to where you are. But I also want you to know that nobody is going to come and save you from you. And you're going to have to be willing to lay down that armor of hustle and grind and perfection and achievement so that you can get to the root of who you are, so that you can get to the core of your identity and really be able to embrace the blessings that God has already given to you. But you can't experience it as a blessing because it feels like a burden because you don't know how to receive. You don't know how to receive your success. You don't know how to receive your accolades. You don't even know how to receive your achievements because nothing can fill the void that you've been feeling. That voice that has told you that you are not enough, that voice is so loud, and you've been hearing that voice for so long that it really doesn't matter what you achieve. Every blessing feels like a burden because you feel like a burden. Let's talk about it. You feel like a burden. You feel like things aren't right in your life. You feel like something is fundamentally wrong with you. And because of that, you find yourself in burnout mode, really, literally wanting to crash out. It hurts my heart when I talk to clients and they tell me how much they want to end their lives. They tell me how much it seems like death is an easier option than life because life is so hard. And what I often find is they don't really mean that, but they're just tired. They're exhausted and they don't know what to do with that. Because in our culture, especially as a Black woman, if you express that you are tired, that you are weary, you have so much gaslighting going on. You have so many people telling you, oh no, you can do it, or just keep pressing. You know, you can't afford to give up. You know, you got to keep doing it. You know, you carrying others with you. You got to keep pressing on. But where do you go to rest? Where do you go to lay down your armor? And that's why we're here. That's why we're growing heart equity together. Because I want you to know that yes, you were equipped to carry that armor, but you were never intended to carry it every day, all day, for the last 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's time to do something new. So first, let's talk about what is emotional burnout. Let's just get some clear definition. So just a brief synopsis of what emotional burnout is. It's a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged stress and excessive demands. It's characterized by feeling overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet ongoing demands from work, relationships, caregiving, and other life areas. You get emotional burnout when your stress levels become chronic and unrelenting, leading to a depletion of your emotional and mental resources. I think about emotional burnout that I experienced after my mother passed away. The grief was so um powerful. The grief was so impactful that I was literally burnt out. It was hard to make decisions. It was tough to just decide what I was going to put on, what I wanted to eat, if I wanted to take a shower or not. It was really hard to focus on really being a good caregiver to my husband and to my children, and even more importantly to myself. And I realized that a lot of times when we think about emotional burnout, we think about work and we might think about like all of the expectations that we have on us. But I also want to highlight that you can also experience burnout just from going through the challenges and circumstances that you go through in life. Sometimes you have situation after situation after situation taking place, and it is too much, and you just can't handle it. And you have to take a break. And I think that is profound because we don't hear enough people talking about it. But once I really started getting in and doing this work and doing hard work and really researching spiritual and mental and emotional wellness and development, I realized there were so many people that I knew that were around me that had experienced mental, emotional, and spiritual breakdowns to the point that they had to be hospitalized. And I don't see an issue with that. If you're going through any other crisis in your body and you need to go in the hospital for a while to be healed, to be rehab, you should do that. And I don't think that your mind and your emotions, your mental capacity is any different. But what I did find that was so challenging for me was just the fact that so many people have suffered in silence and nobody knows what they're going through. And typically, we do not know what you're going through until you have burnt out, until you have crashed out, until you have attempted suicide, until you have had some health scare or some mental episode that caused you to be incapacitated or not able to respond properly or in a healthy way. And now you must get some type of attention paid to you. I don't want it to go that far. So when we think about um you experiencing burnout, is it a blessing or is it a burden? I, anything in your life, no matter what it has been intended for you, could be considered a blessing or a burden depending on what perspective you're looking at it from. You could have just hit the lottery after you've been praying for a financial blessing, and that could be a blessing. But then immediately after realizing that you've received that blessing, now many people feel the weight and the heaviness of the burden of, well, who do I help? Who do I support? Who should I be there for versus those that I should not be concerned about or worried about? So when we think about burnouts and how do we manage it, and is this a burden or is this a blessing? Just understand that any circumstance in your life at any given time could be considered a burden or a blessing, depending on what season you're in and what you're going through in that moment. Being a parent can feel like an absolute blessing, but there have been seasons in my life where being a parent has felt like an absolute burden all at the same time. And so when we think about emotional burnout, I want you to think about some of the things that have caused you to experience this level of burnout because I know you're excited about what's happening in your business. You're excited about what's happening in your career. But I also know that there's a little piece of you and a thought of that's in your head that is louder than you might want to acknowledge that you fear what happens if I mess this all up? What happens if I drop the ball? What happens if they knew who I really am versus who I'm presenting to them? You know, dealing with that imposter syndrome. What happens when the triggers from your past traumas show up in your blessing and now your blessing immediately feels like a burden? Some of you been praying for that dream husband or dream wife to come into your life, but because you don't know how to manage this blessing in your life, now you crashing out. Now when they are checking on you and trying to see how you doing, you feel like they're being overbearing or controlling because you're being triggered from your past relationship that was abusive. We're talking about emotional, mental, spiritual burnout. And it's a real big problem. It's a really big issue, and it's something that we really want to we want to consider, we want to think about. Because if you're a professional in any capacity, if you call yourself a boss in your field, maybe you are bringing in the money, maybe you are rolling in the dough, maybe your team is growing and expanding, and business is going good for you. But I just want to know, does your personal life support and back up what's happening in your professional life? Can what is in the public be withstood by what is going on in your private life? That's why growing heart equity is so important to me because I have talked to and counseled many professionals who had it all and then lost it all because they did not know how to manage the stress in their life. They did not know how to eliminate stress. They did not know how to deal with the pain, the doubt, the worry, and the insecurities because guess what? You thought that because you got the degree, you thought that because you're making the 6 and 7 figures a year, you thought that because you got the that ring on your finger, it was going to erase the insecurities of the past. And it didn't. You still don't see handsome when you look in the mirror. You still find all the perfections in your face when you look in the mirror. All you could see are the dimples and the creases in your body when you look at the mirror. Like you still can't see the goodness of the Lord that the Lord has placed you in, and that's a part of why you're experiencing the burnout. The burdens from your past are burdening you down so much you can't experience your blessings, and now you're burnt out because you kept taking a licking and you keeping on ticking, right? Like the Energizer Bunny, and you like a Tonka truck. You can just take whatever comes your way. But the truth of the matter is, you cannot. You were never designed to be like that. I know you're tired, and it's not a physical tired, right? You have been doing all of this producing. You are so creative. You can not only help yourself get to the bag, you can help other people see their dreams come true. You can help other people rise to the occasion in their lives. You're supporting them and helping them get the way you need to be. And you know it's more for you. But the more you work towards it, the more exhausted you get, the more you feel like you're not appreciated or you're not getting out what you're putting in. And I just want to encourage you and tell you you don't have to be stuck like that, right? And it's very common that high achievers like you, like me, experience burnout. And what's also even more common, sadly, is we experience it quietly. Because let's be honest, a lot of times we are afraid to get quiet and get still and ask ourselves what we really need. But instead, we look at the blueprint, the template, the carbon copy that the world has given us, that society and culture has said. If you check off these boxes, this is what's going to make you successful. You have to work your fingers to the bone. You have to be busy. You have to grind. You have to sleep for 3 to 4 hours a night. You have to go hard every day. You have to work your fingers to the bone. You have to be very materialistic, have all of the nice things, look like you got money, sound like you got money, show up like you got money, and then you feel happy. And then you feel successful. But really what's happening is you just tired. You literally feel like you're getting ready to lose your mind. You losing your hair. You starting to have issues show up in your body. You getting spots on your skin. You having excessive weight loss and excessive weight gain, all because you're masking busyness as success. You afraid to be still with yourself. That little girl or little boy in you that didn't feel seen and didn't feel heard is still trying to be seen and still trying to be heard and still wants to be validated. And you're so afraid to acknowledge that because what happens if you tell the truth and get rejected again? What would happen? We got to be honest. We got to be honest about where we are. We got to be honest about what we're going through in our lives. And let me tell you something, you were not designed to walk around and burn out. Let's talk about how we get emotional burnout, prolonged stress. Right? It talks about how emotional burnout it doesn't it's not something that just happens overnight. It's something that goes on and develops gradually over time. And it's a combination of factors of things that often take place. And one of the primary things is prolonged stress. See, what we like to think is that we can handle the stress that is in our lives. And I have been guilty of this in the past, convincing myself that you know what? I can manage the stress that's in my life. I've convinced myself, right, that I can manage the stress that's in my life. As long as I can get it under wraps, right? As long as I can contain it, I can manage it. But let me tell you something, stress is a silent killer. Yes, we're going to die anyway, but anytime you nurse stress, it might as be like you might as well be nursing a poison that's in your life. It's like preparing a poison in your kitchen and being surprised when you mess around and ingest some of it because it got exposed because it was in the same place you were preparing other foods. So let's stop trying to manage stress in our lives and let's eliminate it. It doesn't matter if you have constant pressure from work. You might have constant pressure from being a wife or a husband or in your romantic relationship. You might have pressure and stress from being a parent, or maybe you're a caregiver, or maybe you got something going on with your health, or maybe your purpose in life is really a burden on you. You're trying to grow your business. You've been trying to manage these new things that been going on since these changes that are happening in the economy and the government, and the stress is building up. On top of that, you have these excessive demands. You have all of these responsibilities and obligations that far exceed the capacity that you have to maintain these things. Let me tell you another thing that causes burnout: a lack of recovery. I know one thing we understand, especially those in the faith, we understand the Sabbath, right? We understand, remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. We understand that 6 days the Lord worked and on the seventh day he rested. But what a lot of people do not understand is that rest is a part of work. And your work is not complete until you have properly rested. And I can promise you that a big part of the burnout that you're experiencing right now in your life is because you do not prioritize rest. You are going through life like you are a robot. You are acting like you are not human, and you're wondering why people are treating you like you are a robot, like you are some type of monster, because that's how you're operating. You are important. In order for your body to rest and rejuvenate and to be renewed and to be restored, you have to recover. Sleeping is not for the weak. Sleeping is not for the lazy. Sleeping is for people who want a healthy immune system and who want to be healthy and refreshed and renewed in their lives every day. That's who sleep is for. So we have to also get clear about how we want to live our lives. If you don't want to be living in burnout, if you want to be living in the blessing and not feeling like it's a burden, you have to stop and start to look at the temple that you are living your life through or along with. Are you living your life at a fast paced, upbeat tempo? Like, are you living your life in a sprint? Or are you living your life at the pace of a marathon? Because I'm going to tell you, life is not a sprint. Life is a marathon. And you got to get to the point where you're going to pace yourself. Many of us live in a survival mentality. It's like sink or swim. It's like go, 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 go until you have no more to go at all. And what is that really? That is poor self care, which is another thing that leads to burnout. You will take care of everybody else. You will prioritize everybody else. You will work your finger to the bone to provide for your child or provide for your family or provide for your community. But why do you continue to neglect the most important thing to making sure that all of that happens? You. Why are you neglecting yourself? Your mental, your physical, your spiritual, financial well being. You need to get enough sleep. You need to be eating right. You need to be exercising. You also want to make sure that you're in healthy environments with people that are feeding into you, supporting you, loving you, and encouraging you. You cannot be the sharpest knife in the drawer. And I get it. A lot of times you like to be the one that everybody comes to for advice because it makes you feel like you're needed. It makes you feel like you're contributing and you're doing something. But can I help you out? It also feeds into your insecurity. You'd much rather hear what other people got going on because you don't really want to expose your vulnerability and your shortcomings. It really does make you feel a little bit better if you be honest to hear about all the hell everybody else is going through while you're not sharing yours, and you'll say, well, everybody comes to me and I can't come to them. But that's how you've set it up. That's really how you've aligned your life. And now you're exhausted that you've established a system in your life that no longer works, but it's comfortable, it's convenient. And you're so afraid of change now that you're choosing burnout and burdens over blessings. And it got to stop. You got to be willing to make that adjustment. And the only way you can do that is by establishing some form of self control. You have to get yourself in a space where you're being held accountable for being the best version of yourself. See, when you're a high achiever and you're a go getter, a lot of times you have to be more intentional about being in community because the very nature of your work can cause you to be isolated. When you start growing your business and advancing in your career, many times the bulk of your conversation is dealing with your clients, your customers, your cohorts. So you can get tunnel vision and get really stuck in a routine that no longer serves you. And if you don't sit down and get still and start to pay attention to what is causing me to burn out, then what's going to happen is you're not only not going to ever be able to be refreshed and renewed, you're never going to be able to maximize your potential because you're always going to be just getting by. Can I tell you something? It does not matter the dollar amount that's in your bank account. That does not determine your success. Your success is determined by how you can enjoy the life that you have created. What type of harmony and balance have you established so that you can actually work and then enjoy the work that you have done? If you can't work and then go home and rest and enjoy your life, and be thankful for the work that you've done and been in a space of gratitude, then you're going to always be in a space of burnout. You're never going to get to experience the fullness of the life God has created you to live because you're living in such a limited space. Stop choosing stress over freedom. Stop choosing chaos over peace. But the only way you can do that is if you start to get honest about who you are and where you are in your life right now. And it's time for you to let go of these burdens that have been holding you down. And I really think that one of the biggest things that has been doing this to you is because, and I mentioned this earlier, is you have you are stuck in the trap of tying your identity to your achievement. I know it's hard when you hear me talking about you need to rest and you need to slow down and you need to start being clear about where you are. Because I talk to people all the time that feel like I'm giving so much and I'm doing so much and I'm giving back to my community and I'm giving. And it's like nobody appreciates me. And it's like God is not hearing my prayers. And yes, I know I'm blessed. And yes, I know I'm experiencing levels of success. But if I'll be honest, it still feels like it's not enough. You still feel weak. And I just want to let you know that there is no action that you can take that's going to make you feel better about yourself. There is no doing that you can do that's going to make you feel better about yourself. You have to get to know who you are, who your being is. There's this concept called be, do, have. Many of us want to have, so we are doing in order to have so that we can be. So I would say, I want to be, especially when my children were younger, it's this whole idea of I wanted to be a good mother. I wanted to be a successful mom. And I felt like a successful mom was a mom that was pretty disciplined and strict on her rules. A successful mom was a mom that made sure that her children knew the Lord and took her children to church. And a successful mom was a mom that made sure that her children got their grades done and her children did this and did that. It was a lot about action based. And as I started to experience burnout in parenthood, and I was doing hard work and the Lord was working on my heart and healing me. What I started to realize was to be a successful mom is not so much about my children doing certain things as much as it's about who they are as a human being? Are they caring? Are they compassionate? Are they respectful? Are they honest? Are they creative? Are they inquisitive? Do they have integrity? And that, when I started to look at parenting from that aspect, well, how do I raise children that have those attributes and have those qualities, have those parts of their being? When I focus more on investing in their being, now their doing will take care of itself. But you're experiencing burnout because you're so focused on doing and having, because you want to have these things and do these things because you're trying to convince yourself you're good enough. But I'm trying to tell you, if you know and believe that you're good enough, then everything that you do and have will be much better and you can enjoy it. Everything you do and have won't feel so burdensome. You won't feel so tired. Yeah, you got the degree. Yeah, you purchased the house and you got the car and you went on the trip and you were in paradise on vacation, still miserable, thinking about your miserable life because you're so burnt out. And it doesn't have to be that way. And yeah, your life looked good on pictures, but I want it to feel good in real life. I don't want you to have further burnout because you know you're presenting a false life on social media and to your colleagues and your family and your friends. That's not heart equity. That's a heart deficit. We're growing heart equity. And in order to do that, you have to understand that you are much more than what you do. Who you are is way more than what you do. God created you for a purpose. God put you here to do a specific work. And you're going to always feel burnt out if your plan and your agenda is not aligned with God's plan and his agenda for your life. And if you're believing what people say about you, that if you rest, that means that you're lazy. And if you're not pursuing having the most money in the bank and the biggest house on the street, then something must be wrong with you. The devil is a liar. I know God created you with substance. There is something that you desire. There is a life that you have been created to live. And I'm just here to tell you that now is the time. You can be honest about your burnout. You don't have to be afraid of being burnt out because, can I tell you something? This is probably the best position for you to be in. Sometimes we have to hit rock bottom in order for us to bounce back and really live the life we were created to live. But you got to do an inventory on your life because burnout really is a sign that you are not aligned authentically with the purpose that God has for your life. When you're burnt out in your relationships, when your finances are burnt out, when your health is burnt out, when your career is burnt out, maybe your tax return and your 1099 looks really good, but you feel terrible. See, you're not gonna find a shortage of coaches telling you how to make money and 10 steps to $1 million, but how many of them are gonna tell you how to actually enjoy it? How to actually reach that success and be able to sleep at night? What I have found is way more rich and wealthy people commit suicide and unalive themselves than those that are not. Why is that? Because how distressing and how disappointing is it to know that you have sacrificed your integrity, your personal time, your relationship with Christ, your relationship with your family and friends and those that you love for the almighty dollar to obtain some type of power and money because you thought that was going to bring security. You thought that was going to bring happiness. You thought that was actually going to be the success only to get there and find out that it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's all fake. Emotional wealth, spiritual wealth equals financial wealth. When you are emotionally healthy and intelligent, spiritually healthy and intelligent, physically, mentally healthy and intelligent, it breeds about a financial level of wealth. I believe that we were all created to thrive. I believe that we were all favored with resources and services and skills and a level of creativity that will make room for us. The Bible tells us your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men, but you got to be willing to bring out that gift. And just because you're good at something do not mean that you're gifted at it. Sometimes you're good at something because that's what you had to do to survive. And just because you had to do that to survive does not mean that that's the space that you're supposed to stay in. So I have a couple questions I want you to ask yourself. What am I doing right now that no longer feels authentic and aligned in my life? I want you to just sit for a moment. Let's just stop and take a 3 deep breaths in. We're going to breathe in deep for 4 seconds. We're going to hold it for 4 seconds and we're going to breathe out for 4 seconds. We're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our nose. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Breathe in, hold it, breathe out. Breathe in again, breathe in, hold it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out. Breathe in one more time. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold it. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Now, as we begin to bring this episode to a close, I have a few questions I want you to ask yourself. I also encourage you to share your answers with me. You can email your answers to heartcoachtalk@gmail.com, or you can also DM me or instant message me on Instagram or TikTok at heartcoachtalk on Instagram or heartcoachtalk1 on TikTok, and you can also comment on Spotify or Apple's podcast, wherever you're listening to this episode. Let me know some of the answers and what you came up with, right? But I'm serious. I don't want you living your life burnt out. I've seen too many people die from heart attacks and strokes and literally be incapacitated in their lives and deal with serious illnesses, all because they did not know how to manage and eliminate, not just manage, but eliminate stress in their lives. And I don't want that to be me. And I also don't want that to be you. So I want you to sit and think about it. Where in your life right now do you feel burdened? Where? Is it in a relationship? Is it in a belief? Do you feel burdened in your marriage or with your partner? Do you feel burdened in your parenting or the lack thereof? Do you feel the weight of your career, your business? What feels heavy or burdensome to you right now? And I encourage you to write these answers down. If you haven't already, if you are part of the Heart Tribe, I just encourage you to get a journal. I will be publishing our Heart Work journals here, looking to get them published this spring. So be on the lookout for that. But ask yourself, where do you feel burdened? Like, what feels really heavy when you think about doing it? It's like dread or regret. When this person calls you, it's like, oh my gosh, would they just stop calling? Where in your life are you feeling this heaviness? All right. Next question. What am I doing that no longer feels authentic and aligned with the purpose in my life? What am I doing that no longer feels authentic and aligned with the purpose in my life? And I want you, as you answer these questions, don't judge your answers. I like to encourage people to journal because Especially if you're not a journaler, that makes it even more powerful because you will be surprised at the answers that you write down when you're not judging yourself so harshly. We can often be our hardest and worst critic. And I'm just encouraging you, don't critique yourself. Just honestly answer the questions as you go through this process. All right? All right. Another question very similar to the first one. What is draining me that I keep pretending is normal? What is draining me that I keep pretending is normal? Maybe it's your relationship with your parent. Maybe it is the sarcasm that your family used, and everybody in your family is sarcastic or passive aggressive, but that behavior is draining you, but it's been accepted as normal in your family. I just gave you an example, but what is draining you that you keep pretending is normal? Maybe your toxic work environment. Maybe you have a friend or a friend group that drains you, but y'all have been friends for so long, you just keep acting like it's normal. Let's be honest about these answers. Okay. And two more questions. What does success feel like for you? If you could describe what authentic, real success feels like in your life, what would that be? Does success feel like warm sunshine? Does success feel like laughter and joy? Does success feel like good music and good times with friends? What does success feel like? Not just look like. What does success feel like in your life? And last but not least, and for this question, I want you to give three answers. What are you grateful for? What are you grateful for? Now, I want to encourage you to really sit down and give yourself at least 15, 20 minutes to really go through these questions. Honestly, I think an hour or two would do you justice, but we're just getting started. My clients will tell you, like, I'm a big proponent of journaling, especially when you're looking for a breakthrough in your life. I know scientifically, journaling has powerful um impacts on our lives and how we process the situations that we're going through. But I just want to encourage you to share some of the feedback that you got. Share some of the insight. Send it to the email at Heart Coach Talk, right? Send it to the email. You can look right here and you can see all of the handles and ways that we can connect. But I really want to encourage you to stay focused on reducing and eliminating the stress that's in your life. Because the truth of the matter is, your blessings don't have to be burdensome. But like I tell everybody, blessings and burdens all come with a weight. You just typically enjoy carrying the blessing more than you enjoy carrying the burden. But when you get to a place of burnout, it's hard to tell the difference between a blessing or a burden. And I don't want you to get confused in this area. God has brought you too far. You have been through too much for you to get to this point and give up. No, you're not an imposter. No, you are not fake, a fraud, or a phony, but you do have some healing that needs to take place. Your success got ahead, your external success got ahead of your internal healing. The little girl or the little boy in you needs to be restored and to be assured that you are okay. And I just want to remind you that you are okay and you can get through it. And I would love to hear from you. Okay? So make sure that you DM me and let me know like what came up when you answered those questions. And also, if you would like to schedule a free clarity call where we can have a private session where you can gain some clarity on how you can get out of this place of burnout and be able to see your burden as a blessing again, right? I encourage you to schedule a session. But either way, let's stay connected, okay? Well, that's all I got for y'all today. Just know that you do not have to stay in this space of burnout. It is okay to say that you need help. It is okay to say that you are drowning. But what is not okay is for you to stay stuck in this situation. Okay? Remember, when you heal your heart, you transform your life. This is Adelaide Brown, your heart coach, signing out. Love y'all. Have a wonderful day.